After reading about the Hall of Fame of Faith in Hebrews chapter 11, we should not be so awestruck by these heroes of the faith, but we should be inspired to even greater faith and greater works. Good morning, I'm Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. Hebrews chapter 12 seems to be set in a huge arena with the stands filled with these great heroes of the faith that we read about in chapter 11. And in the center of the ring, it's you and me. We're facing our greatest foe at the most difficult time in our lives, or perhaps the most difficult temptation or trial that we often face, and here we are. So the writer says, rather than being frightened, let's be inspired in this setting. He says in Hebrews 12 and verse 1, therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Down here we face trials and temptations that often seem to be maybe even more than we can bear to overcome. We get discouraged, so we often feel defeated. So the author here reminds us that we are surrounded by this scriptural heroes of the faith, the past heroes that are all watching on, and they're all cheering us to victories daily. So the first thing we need to do to prepare for this race that we have been given is to lay aside every weight. Have you ever seen a distance runner carrying weights along with him? No. Most of them are barely wearing clothing, They get the lightest shoes that they can find. They are prepared for their race. And there's nothing more troubling than wanting to do our very best in the race, but being bogged down with some kind of clodhopper shoes or wearing some heavy coveralls while we're trying to run. That's what our Christian life oftentimes looks like when we allow those things into our lives that clutter our wardrobe. Not sins, you realize, but just things that hinder us from doing our best in the race. I recently began to consider, what kind of things could I give up for Lent? What would it take for us to show God that we're really serious about drawing closer to Him during this season of the year? Unfortunately, I found many things that we could give up, that at this time waste our time, our energy, take away from things that we should be doing. Unfortunately, these things are crowders. They are worldly pursuits that we really don't need, and they take away our thoughts and our time and our energy. Then the writer says we should lay aside the sins that so easily ensnare us. Now, we probably all have those great temptations that pester us daily, perhaps even overcome us from time to time when we're not careful to fight against them. Those sins will slow us down in the race, and if we continue to let them control us, they may even cause us to give up in the race before it's completed. There is nothing more disheartening to me in watching a track meet than to see one of the runners just stop running, or they slow down to a walk, and before you know it, they may even wander off the track altogether. I don't want that to be me or you. So the call is to run that race set before us with patience, with perseverance, with endurance, setting aside the weights and laying aside the sin, and run for a victory for the Lord Jesus Christ.